That's right. Hey, you watch how you treat your friends, your neighbors, and the rest of the peeps out there. That will happen to you. Instant karma will catch up with you eventually. You're not going to get away with it forever. And I'm talking right to you, Warren Buffett, Cousin Buffett. Right to you, Cousin Barry. Right to you, Cousin Z-Big, and Cousin Cheney, and Cousin Palin, and all the cousins out there. You listen good. We have not yet even begun to fight. Thank you for joining us. Deadline Live, I'm Jack Blood. As you can tell, I'm a little under the weather. As I mentioned yesterday, I have a sinus infection. It's something even Enterfood won't cure. At least Enterfood puts me in the chair and I could do this show today. So thank you so much for tuning in. I have been looking forward to this interview since we booked it all this week to talk about the Truther Girls. Have you heard about them? They have about 500,000 uploads off of their YouTube site, thousands and thousands and thousands of hits off of every one of their very creative art activism, art truth videos on the World Wide Web, the internets. And I want to bring on one of the Truther Girls today on the program. But before I do, I want to give you a little example of their work. Now, they do all kinds of funny, arty activism videos. A lot of them you have to see. They won't translate to radio so well. I want to play you a couple of minutes of this amazing video because the research involved in this is unprecedented. This is the best coverage of this story. What is the story? HAARP and Haiti conspiracy theory, ? Have you heard about this? Hugo Chavez accusing the Navy of performing in a test capacity the earthquake that resulted in the death and devastation in Haiti. Before we bring Sonia on, I want you to hear this research that she did. You can watch her and follow along as she does this research. It is really very instructive and enlightening. This show has been a wild ride. I'm just about to make it a lot wilder. Check this out. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's talk more about HAARP and the Haiti earthquake. Number one, Hugo Chavez, did he or did he not say that HAARP was involved? Because I've been getting a lot of messages about this.
Okay, this video is on my blog, thetruthergirls.wordpress.com. The Russia Today clip where they said that Chavez said that a tectonic weapon was involved. In fact, he did not actually say that HAARP was involved, just that tectonic weapon was involved. But what other tectonic weapons do we suspect than HAARP? They also said that the use of this weapon has never been proved, but it's a popular idea with conspiracy theorists.
Yes, in fact, HAARP can be used to cause earthquakes. It can be used as a tectonic weapon. Hasn't ever been proved that it's been used that way. But if they used it, do you think they would tell you? But it does have the capacity to do that.
I also put this video on my blog. It's very good in terms of outlining what HAARP is and how it can be used and how it may have already been used.
Okay, here are a couple of quotes from that video.
That was HAARP caused the earthquake in China.
Public Relations for HAARP. He says, applications discussed in the patents include, among other things, communications control and disruption, as in they can disrupt communications, and ideas involving weather modification. Okay, also Brooks Agnew, Earth tomographer, in the same video says that he has found oil wells with 30 watts of power. Okay, he goes on to explain how you can compare it to the strings in a piano, and by sending radio waves down into the earth, it produces certain vibrations, and with very low amounts of power, you can detect things like oil and gas. We might get a sound like ping, and we'd say that's natural gas, or another one, and they'd say that's oil. He says that they could detect oil and gas with 30 watts. He says if you do this with 1 billion watts, which is what HAARP uses, the vibrations are so violent that the entire piano would shake. In fact, the whole house would shake. In fact, the vibrations would be so severe underground that it would cause an earthquake. Do you think Brooks Agnew is a conspiracy theorist? He's an earth tomographer. So what did Chavez actually say, and what's going on here? You know, when people send me this info, they referred me to Wikipedia. So let's go check out Wikipedia and see what they have to say about it.
Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez was widely reported to have blamed HAARP as the cause of the 2010 earthquake.
Do you think Wikipedia is the be-all and end-all of information? Me, not so much. Let's go and see what abc.es has to say about this.
Here's the article. Lucky for me, I can read Spanish, and I can probably order a taco, too, so I can translate this for you. Chavez accuses the EEUU of provoking the earthquake in Haiti.
Okay, it starts off like this. The anti-American government of Venezuela, in their habitual paranoia against the imperial Yankee, asserts that the quake in Haiti was the, quote, clear result of a test by the U.S. Marina, I suppose is the Navy, and underlines that an experimental earthquake of EEUU had devastated the Caribbean country of Haiti. A press publication of the Cadena Estatal de Televisión Vive refers to a report prepared by La Flota Rusa del Norte, so the Russian Northern Fleet, which indicates that the quake was the clear result of a test by the American Navy by means of a tectonic weapon. It goes on to say that the Flota del Norte, continues the text, has been monitoring the movements and naval activities of the U.S. in the Caribbean since 2008. Okay, they also say that the U.S. Navy experiments also involve the California quake. Okay, and they add that, according to the cited Russian text, cited by the Venezuelans, it is most likely that Washington had complete knowledge of the catastrophic damage that this earthquake weapon test could potentially cause to Haiti, and had positioned their commander of the Southcom, the General P.K. Keane, in the island to supervise humanitarian aid work that would be necessary.
Okay, this reference to Southcom and what they were doing is confirmed here on globalresearch.ca in an article by Michael Chossudovsky. It says, after the earthquake hit Tuesday, Dene said Southcom decided to go live with the system. See, they were testing a new system.
Southcom was in position in the Caribbean, and they were testing a new system called DISA. And one day prior to the earthquake, on Monday, January 11th, Jean Demey, DISA's technical manager for the agency's Transnational Information Sharing Cooperative Project, happened to be at the headquarters of U.S. Southern Command in Miami, preparing for a test of the system in a scenario that involved providing relief to Haiti in the wake of a hurricane. Wow, well, I have to say, does that remind you of anything? Because it reminds me of something. It reminds me of how they were running those drills in the London Underground just when the supposed terrorism.
Exactly. Hey, I'm going to stop it there. We could play that whole thing and more, and you would learn a lot from that. In fact, I learned more about HAARP from that video, and, of course, all the books I've read on it. But I learned more from that video than, say, well, Jesse Ventura's show on the subject of HAARP. Joining us on the program today is Sonia. Sonia and her friends bring you the truth about H1N1, vaccinations, chemtrails, and more. If they make you laugh while you're at it, all the better. We've got to keep a sense of humor, even at a time like this. They are called the Truther Girls. You can find them all over the Internet. Sonia joining us now from an undisclosed bunker in Canada. Thank you, Sonia, and what a great job you did on that HAARP report.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for the wonderful intro. And, well, thanks. I looked up some information, and I found all these different things, and that's the way that I connected the dots. It doesn't prove that HAARP was used, but it shows that it's possible.
Well, and it does, and it's very interesting information. And, we have been talking on this show about scalar weapons and these things for a long time. And just because you don't have a smoking gun in your hand doesn't mean that all roads don't lead to a logical conclusion. It's not that it happened, it's that it could happen, right, Sonia? And if they can do it, they generally will do it.
Well, there were quite a few things about what happened in Haiti and what are still happening that are, as far as I'm concerned, it's all one big smoking gun that goes back decades. They've been involved in there for a long time. They've ousted their government. They've done there were so many things in the history. It's not like people don't realize how involved the U.S. has been with Haiti and for how long, and the things that they've been doing to keep that country down, And so then this happens, and it just looks like, oh, look at that, they had an earthquake. And it's just a coincidence they happen to discover all this oil. Well,
yeah.
And now they're going to lease it, offshore leasing to the big oil companies, and that's just convenient for the globalists, but they had nothing to do with it, and they just happen to be running a drill. And there's the induction magnetometer from the University of Tokyo that the HAARP induction magnetometer that shows like very high electrical frequency activity, but it's like it monitors HAARP activity. So HAARP was extremely active that day. And people would say, well, that's because there was an earthquake, things were going on with magnetic fields. But there are earthquakes all over the world all the time. And this thing just showed this in the 2 days just
Wasn't
before.
there some data deleted by HAARP Central in the aftermath of all of this?
That's right. Yeah, they deleted the files from the 11th. It was January 12th. So it was January 11th. They deleted the files, but not only on that instrument, but on another one. And I don't know if they tried to say, oh, it was just some freak accident. Oops, it just disappeared. But I mean, for that to happen at two different instruments for the same day, I mean, obviously it's been deleted. I don't know if it's back up now.
There is a playbook. We see. I like how you mentioned the 7/7 London underground bombings. Of course, we've done these exhaustive research capacities on Madrid, the Madrid bombings, on the 9/11 attacks, and they're running these drills in everything. In fact, this has almost spawned an industry on the internet to watch all the drills, because wherever they're having a drill, we start assuming that maybe there'll be a terrorist attack following.
Yeah, it's scary when they have drills. You never know. When they were running NLE-09, the national level exercise involving foreign troops last year in the States, a lot of people were really on edge about that. But, it turned out that it was just a drill. So sometimes a drill is a drill. But when they do this kind of a false flag attack, like let's be honest, like what happened in London, there is a drill running. Everything is in place.
Well, we have that clip. I mean, the guy that was running the drills, Peter Power, actually came out and accidentally, I don't know if all this stuff is an accident. Do you, Sonia? I mean, he just admitted that they were running drills to blow up terrorist attacks at the very same precision points where the things went off. But if they didn't do that in 9/11, and then, of course, we have Oklahoma City to look at, if they didn't do it in all of these places, I guess we wouldn't be so suspicious. But all we hear about is incompetence, coincidences, and then they call us conspiracy theorists. I've yet to see the government actually prove their case regarding 9/11. We've got these 9/11 trials. We had a talk show host earlier talking about how we have to kill KSM. And I was asking the question when we started this show, how did Khalid Sheikh Mohammed perform these drills? I mean, because we heard the NEED tapes, the NORAD tapes. Later, they were released to Vanity Fair. I don't know if you saw those, but they were confused. Is this real?
Yeah.
Is this real, or is this really happening, or is this the part of the drill? They didn't know, and they were paralyzed because of it. Good job, Osama bin Laden. How did you manage to pull that off?
Yeah, I got to say, now, look, like there probably is such a thing. I mean, look, they terrorists, is there such a thing as terrorists at all? Personally, I guess there is, but I don't know if you would really call them terrorists. I mean, if you define a terrorist as someone who blows themselves up, as a pressure tactic, well, yes, there are terrorists. But then again, the Vietnamese did the same thing, and did they call them terrorists? You know what I mean? I think it's just like it's just a word that's being used now to define certain kind of, like, I don't know if you call it guerrilla warfare or. Well, no,
if you win, you're a freedom fighter and you're fighting for democracy and liberty. If you lose, you're a terrorist.
Yeah, but usually like the Japanese had kamikaze pilots, so were they also terrorists? It's just our definition has changed. But let's say, is there really such a thing as terrorists? Is there such a thing as people who blow themselves up? For sure. Yeah. Is there such a thing as international terrorism? I don't know, because every time there is such an incident, it looks like an inside job. And the other thing is, Osama bin Laden and the 9/11 guys, if you were going to attack America, why would you go the route of going through an airport, the highest security, and put yourself through this kind of risk and have to take on NORAD just to do an attack? Because if they really wanted to attack America and they had 20 guys who are already in America, they could have just put bombs on themselves and blown themselves up all over the place. You know what I'm saying? I think what they do with this whole airplane thing is they play on people's fear of flying. People are afraid to be in a plane in the first place, so they tend to use that, and it's always about airport security. Oh, everybody's get afraid to be trapped in a plane that gets hijacked or blown up. But, normally in the past when there were hijackings, there's always a political objective, right? Or there's some kind of an objective. And it's usually pretty clear-cut. Like, people would hijack a plane and say, we won't give it back to you until we get X, Y, Z. But what was the objective of 9/11. You know what I'm saying? There's no clear objective other than, oh, we don't like you because you're
whatever
free.
the objective was by Osama bin Laden, we helped him fulfill every part of it. If what we're being told is true, if what we're being told is not true, then cost-benefit analysis comes into play, and they benefited on multiple levels, and that was the construction of the running program.
It doesn't make any sense, though, as a military strategy to go and just blow up one building just to show the Americans that you're capable. It doesn't make sense because all that did was bring the Americans into Afghanistan. So what would they accomplish by doing that? People don't just, like, it just doesn't make any sense logically. Like, for example, if you're in a country that's being occupied and you're fighting against them and you don't have the kind of weapons to actually fight on their level, and then you use, terror tactics or pressure tactics like random blowing up of buses and things like that. People do that in certain situations, but they have a military objective. They're trying to kick somebody out. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to attack their military forces in a different way. But to just take this, organize this huge thing and go up against airport security and NORAD for the sole purpose of blowing up this one building, which would do nothing but get the Americans more on your ass, it accomplishes nothing. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, no, because they're irrational, they're radical, extremist, and they don't care about, sustaining life in their own countries, et cetera.
It makes absolutely no sense.
Sonia, we could talk about this, and I want to come back to some of this because I've got some underwear bombing to talk about, some underpants bombing to talk about here. But, what I want to say is, first of all, note to self, I'm writing this down. Tell Danny Romero to produce a Truth or Girl show here on American Freedom Radio. Now we've got that out of the way. We started in fourth gear with you, Sonia. You just picked right up and ran with the ball. Now let's pretend we're starting at the beginning of the interview and tell us who you are and what your mission is.
Right. Let's get back to that. Okay, I'm a bit of an enigma, right? Because a lot of the time people aren't even sure whether my YouTube channel is satire or whether it's real, It's a bit truth in jest. I mean, the underlying message is real, but the characters bringing it to you are ridiculous a lot of the time.
That's a good setup. You kind of tease my audience. Come on, you feel teased out there? We're going to come back with Sonia from the Truther Girls, tell you how to look at all their great videos. Everyone's watching them. And pick her brain and her nose just a little bit more. Right after this, stay tuned. Deadline Live, AmericanFreedomRadio.com, and all our great affiliates. We'll be right back talking about the Olympic Games. Stay tuned. Thanks for joining us, folks. Deadline Live. I'm your radio gun, Jack Blood, as always, here. About 10 years now for this radio program. And, we do what comes natural. That song is called Be Yourself by my homeboy up in there. And it's true, and that's all we're doing is being ourselves. I got a lot of letters for our guests today, and I might read some of those. But here's a letter that came in during the show for me today, and I think it kind of explains the Truther Girls in a way, too. I got this. I'm not going to mention the name. Thank you for sending it. You'll know who you are. Great article and point. They're referring to my article of Palin the Wrecker, the Tea Party is dead. She says, great article and point. Still think you're a nutcase, but then again, quite a few people think I am too. That's what makes this country great, the world great, I'll add. And the ability to talk about what we want, and if people don't like it, they don't have to listen. She says she's been protesting taxes for years. Where were the people the last 8 years, the last 15 years? I'll add the last 100 years. Thank you very much for that pace. And here's people that identify with us, Sonia. Sonia is with the Truther Girls because, we don't sound orthodox. We're not following a set commercial media pattern of what you're supposed to hear on media outlets. And this has served me well, Sonia, over the years, picking up, dozens, if not hundreds of affiliates, most of which we've lost. But, we were able to get this out and to get this whole feeling of resistance throughout the world and throughout this country merely because we said what was on our minds, and we didn't sit and wait for the mainstream media to put a microphone in our face. We became the media. You have done that. Before we went to break, you were talking about your work as a deconstruction artist of modern-day media. Please continue with that, if you would.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say, I guess I'm a little bit of an enigma on YouTube because a lot of people don't know whether I'm serious or is it all satire, And it's basically more like, I would say, truth and jest. I mean, maybe sometimes the skits are ridiculous, the characters are ridiculous, but there is truth in the message. And I just think humor is really important because once you lose your sense of humor, you get completely demoralized. But as far as the media goes, I studied media going way back to when I was in college and then in university, and then I did more university. So the media and I go way back from an art point of view and from a written point of view, and I study propaganda techniques and things like that. So I just sort of compulsively deconstruct the media, and it just jumps out at me when I see propaganda techniques. So I try to draw people's attention to that and draw to their attention to ways that they could look at the media critically.
I consider the show we do my art. I was a multimedia artist most of my life, and this is kind of where I naturally ended up. And I love interviewing fellow artists who see the opportunity to not just preach to the choir, but to find interesting ways to bring the masses into what we talk about on our show, what we're thinking about, what we're researching. And, I just wish there was more of it, Sonia. Honestly, we can have, 5,000 radio shows that read news reports and read off the Internet, but to have people that do things that are innovative is what's going to take us to the next level. Can you comment on that, please?
Yeah, and actually I do that intentionally. That's why I make what I do. Sometimes I watch other people's videos, as what I would consider research, not videos relating to politics or the truth movement or anything like that, just videos, and it gives me a lot of ideas for a video that I could make. And let's say I make a video about a shopping trip, I reach a much wider audience because a lot of times people who are, or it could be a video about what's in my purse or whatever, but people who normally wouldn't have searched, Haiti or conspiracy theory will stumble across this stuff because it's in with the stuff about grocery shopping or it's in with the stuff about makeup. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and again, that's something that everybody can relate to. It doesn't turn people off with the numbing diatribes that we constantly see on the Internet.
Well, yeah, there's some radio show hosts and whatnot that it's like every day you listen to the show and you get the impression the sky is falling, and the end result of that is that you actually get discouraged, But I don't like to look at it that way. I look at it more like the sky's been falling for a really long time, and I don't think there's any reason to panic. Panic doesn't accomplish anything. So, I make videos about whatever's on my mind, and I try to put humor into it, and I think I reach a wider audience that way than if I just went on there and said, oh, they're going to do this to you, they're going to do that to you. I mean, they might do that, but we don't really know how it's going to pan out. And actually, I don't think that, the sky is going to fall in one day at all. I think it's very important for them to keep the matrix going. So they want people to be sort of comfortable. They want to lose their comfort. They want people to lose their comfort so slowly that eventually they don't even know what hit them. Do you know what I mean? I don't think everything.
It sounds like you've been listening to my show for years and you haven't, and I like that because that's exactly, my listeners are hearing you say that and go, well, Jack always took the outside gambit and said that FEMA wouldn't be kicking down our doors tomorrow. We wouldn't be entering immediate martial law. And how could he do that? That's crazy. Everyone's predicting that, an attack on Iran any second. Why is he predicting there isn't going to be an attack? Because it's easy for me to say things aren't going to happen because they never really do. All of it is incrementalism, and that's why the fight is so important, in my opinion. How did you get into this, Sonia, and talk about women as info warriors, because there doesn't seem to be enough of them.
Yeah, there are a few out there. There's a few people who have YouTube sites. There's one actually. She's called I'm Just a Girl, and she kind of does news commentary. She puts things together, and there's another one called the real Informed Citizen News, and there's a woman doing that. There's a few, but mostly like the main talk show hosts, and they're all men. But it's not to say that women are not also just as concerned and just as involved. And I have quite a few female friends who are, involved. So I just tend to focus on that and give the women a little bit of the time in the spotlight. Not to exclude men. I mean, I have men in my videos too, but, we're women, so we're the truther girls.
And it is, that is something that is sorely missed in the information warehousing movement, the art as information movement, the performance art as activism movement. You know, we cover this. We're one of the few shows, Sonia, that goes and we follow artists, because I believe that there is no real completion to the political revolution unless there is an artistic or cultural revolution. We could look at the 60s for a good example, or the 70s as a good example to that. In fact, every time in our history that any real change has ever happened, it has always come through art, through music, through literature, and a lot of that, I mean, if we look at 1984 or Brave New World, I mean, these just opened up everyone's mind. But the guy on the soapbox ranting and raving, telling you that the Earth will, World War III will come any day, yeah, that has a limited audience. But what you do and what our artists and musicians friends do, we cover all of this on our program, has the potential to reach not only millions but billions of people and change the paradigms of the way people think. We need to support this kind of activism.
Yeah, everybody has something different they can bring to the table. You know, some people are great leaders, some people are very, you know, have brilliant analysis of things, and some people have something artistic to bring to it. And I have a long, you know, history in being an artist and even being involved in performance and things like that, and a musician. So that's just something that this is a way that I can bring the message to my viewers, or, you know, is with that attitude, because that's just part of who I am. So that's the way I express myself.
Well, and be yourself, as I mentioned. You know, when I woke up to all of this, I was in radio, and people are saying, Jack, why didn't you quit radio and go out and shine shoes against the New World Order? Well, this is what I know how to do. So I did this, and I've continued to do it with at least a modicum of success. But because I tell the truth, Sonia, sometimes even the truth movement doesn't want to hear the truth. It's been kind of a loaded gun. Now, you're up in Canada, and I'm sure you guys have done videos covering the North American Union. I'd like to get your opinions and comments on that.
Well, it's something that's very possible, because actually Canada and America are corporations, and they can just have a corporate merger. But the thing is, you see, like I say, it's key to keep the matrix going. You don't want everybody to wake up to what's going on. If you just say, okay, we're part of...
They're doing very good now. You don't want to turn over the whole apple cart in order to, garner one rat here. No.
Right, because people will obviously not be happy about that. And so you have to, again, do it incrementally. I don't know how that's going to be done, but I mean, for one thing, they signed the Security and Prosperity Partnership, basically gives America all dibs on our resources and gives the American military the right to come up here in case we have a national emergency. The borders become more and more blurred, and I think it's just eventually it's going to be, blurred into one big corporation. I mean, like what happened in Europe, started out as an economic thing, and then it merged more, and now they're going to have a president of the EU, and, So
well, you're right. I mean, a lot of people talk in this country about the Revolution, the American Revolution, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. And where I really get in a lot of trouble, Sonia, is when I refer to this country as the Virginia Company. Because you're right. I mean, these are corporations. And as people, they have delineated us as corporations. Everything's a corporation. And when you're talking about the North American Union, it is a merger. We've been on this program talking about, and this is one of the key kind of benchmark moments for me in my career, was watching the European Union celebrate their 50th anniversary here 2 years ago. They didn't announce the European Union until the late 80s. So they considered what is for us NAFTA and GATT and now CAFTA as the emergence of their European Union. Why would it be any different for us?
Absolutely. I mean, it happened in Europe. There's an African Union, and the Asian Union's in progress. So it's just a matter of time before, we merge. But
they can't tell us. They can't see. This is even going on in Europe right now. We have a story of Van Puy, as we call him. He's the puppet president of the European Union, who came out here at the end of the year in 2009 and said, okay, this is the first year of world government.
Global governance, that's right.
And it's because of, and something we covered extensively, not what went on outside at the G20 in Pittsburgh, what went on inside. And then he pointed to the Copenhagen summit and said, this is the first year of world government. And then he came out today and we're seeing how the European Union is expanding power over sovereignty. They've announced the European Union. It is a real thing. They passed the Lisbon Treaty. They bent arms and shot people to do it and threatened people. But still, they are having to go up against the individual sovereignty of people and countries. They're not going to just come out and tell us, Sonia, that we're the North American Union, or for that matter, the American Union. They've got to wean us into this.
We basically kind of already are, because we're all under the globalists, you know. We're all the corporations. If people like to blame the government, I wouldn't blame the government at all. I think probably a lot of people in government are just doing their job, but it's above that. It's the corporations. And we're already under their power or whatever. And, there's not really a huge difference even between Canada and America at this point, because we've already lost a lot of our sovereignty. It's all just getting hacked away at really slowly. That they just want to make sure that people just don't one day en masse wake up and realize that and freak out, although I don't even know if they would, because at this point people are kind of...
It's hard to tell. Didn't it happen? I mean, I look around. Maybe I live in a bubble, and maybe sometimes you do, and our listeners do. But didn't it happen? I mean, we just did a whole story, talk about victories instead of fear-mongering. We did a whole story in the first hour of our program today about winning the animal identification cause here, and that's a big deal for our farmers and for our ranchers and for people who eat food in America. That's a victory. We won, and we won because people are awake. I mean, when you start going after people's money and their houses, okay, and people can understand this giant credit swap that just happened on the economic 9/11, which was an inside job, that really does wake people up. Yet, when the underpants bomber tried to bomb Detroit, God knows why Al-Qaeda hates Detroit, but which is close to Canada. A lot of people don't know, who don't live there. But anyway, where is Yemen on a map, folks? But, 70% of the people polled thought that we should attack Yemen. And we saw what happened after 9/11. A lot of people were awake through the Bill Clinton years and the Al Gore years. But all of a sudden, we had 9/11, and 99% of the people wanted to go attack somebody and kill somebody. So even if we've made this progress and people are awake, it's so easy to kind of, excuse the expression, bitch slap them right back into the New World Order. Right.
Well, that's it. It's just a lot of fear tactics to get people to do whatever they want. They just kind of, like I've said in my video, they just kind of say boo, and the sheep all just run in one direction. Because, like, even people that I know who are semi-awake, but they still have a lot of trust, so they say, well, the naked scanners, well, isn't it better to be safe and have them? They don't understand the greater issue at stake of your privacy and your liberty, things like that. So people just kind of compromise it because they're just scared into doing it.
And radiating you, which is a big report that came out in a major paper. Can you stay with me?
I have to go because I have to go pick up my son.
Okay. Very good. Well, I appreciate you greatly for being on the program. You did a great job today. And
thank you.
I want everyone to go to the Truther Girls. They can just Google the Truther Girls, but give out any web information.
I just have the YouTube, the Truther Girls right now, and a blog, thetruthergirls.wordpress.com, but my website is going to be changed to thetruthergirls.com very soon.
Thank you for joining us. We'll be right back.